This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. So this is the time of the year where you get to really let your final predictions out. So these guys, these 6 guys are the 6 guys that I think this year, 2023, will have breakout seasons for the Cleveland Browns. We're going to start on the offensive side of the ball, and I'm going to go with a pair of players here at the same position. And I'm not talking about Jerome Ford. I'm talking about David Njoku and Jordan Akins. Well, Jordan Akins, my bad. Why do I think that these 2 players will both break out this year? One, the return for Deshaun Watson to do what he does best. That means he's going to have time to find some of these gaps in some of these defenses. Tight ends are really good for that, especially if you want to attack the middle of the field. We know what Deshaun Watson has done with tight ends in the past. We know how much he loves to find tight ends. We know that that's one of his favorite targets when he's out there dropping back and throwing the football. So that's one reason. The other reason has a lot to do with the athletic profiles of both Jordan Akins and David Njoku. David Njoku and Jordan Akins, I think, are similar places. These are 2 incredibly athletic tight ends. Jordan Akins, a former wide receiver, converted to a tight end. And these are 2 tight ends who can run away from guys, especially Jordan Akins, who I've seen do it in NFL games. He can run away from people. So if you give both of these tight ends space, they're going to be able to break away. You can throw a screen to both of these tight ends, and they'll be real threats with the football in their hands. And I think with the Browns offense, the threats that they have at wide receiver, the threats that they have at running back, and the threats that Deshaun Watson is going to impose on the defense, they're going to be able to spread teams out pretty well. And that's going to lead to more room for David Njoku, more room for Jordan Akins, right? Those little dump offs that they like to switch to if they need a quick third down. Those are going to be there all year for both of the Cleveland Browns tight ends. You talk about the play action stuff or the play action rollout and then have a high-low option with the tight end. That's going to be there all year for the Cleveland Browns at the run game is what they think it's going to be. There's going to be a lot of options and a lot of easy, quick ways to hit these tight ends this year. And I think that they're both going to have pretty impressive and I think breakout seasons. Now, what does that mean for each player? Because their definition of breakout for each of them is different. For David, I say 800 receiving yards and double-digit touchdowns would be a breakout season for him. For Jordan Akins, I think 600 yards and 8 touchdowns would be a massive breakout season for him. If he basically matched what David Njoku did last year, I think that will be huge for him. And you can't talk about breakout players on offense without mentioning Elijah Moore. This is one of those things where what we've seen in camp has been so consistent. What he's been since he's been traded here has been so consistent. We forget that this is a dude who actually has to break out, right? Like he's not guaranteed to break out. And this is Elijah Moore, obviously. And we kind of are in this weird place mentally where we think that Elijah Moore has already done some of these things, but we forget that he hasn't really been that productive so far in his NFL career. The thing is that we can see the success. We can already see the chemistry with Deshaun Watson, the creativity with how to use him in the offense with Kevin Stefanski, and the raw route running ability when he goes one-on-one against a Denzel Ward and completely beats him. We've seen everything that we can and need to see out of Elijah Moore to feel reasonably confident that he's going to be a really good football player in the future for this Cleveland Browns team. You add in that connection with Deshaun Watson. You add in the threats that the Browns have on other areas, right? We just got done talking about the tight end threat. You know that Amari Cooper is going to be there to take some attention away from you. Hell, Nick Chubb's going to be there to take some attention away from you. And you have Kevin Stefanski there to kind of scheme you open. So there are many reasons why Elijah Moore should be successful. What does a breakout season look for him? It looks like a 800 to 1,000 yard season, right? He has not had that level of production. If he does, that will put him in a different conversation than what he's been. And the conversation he's been at has been as an underachiever. So now he gets that opportunity to kind of step in to this new realm as a football player and really break new ground, and I think he will do it. So those are the three guys I have on offense. I don't think it's a mistake that all three of these guys are in the passing attack. One of the biggest changes that we're going to be talking about this year is the lack of importance of any running back that's not named Nick Chubb in this offense. I think we're still stuck on the old days when we worry about who the backup is or who the third string running back is, because 2 years ago and last year that stuff mattered. This year, I just don't think it matters who the backup running back is as much, because the backup running back is going to be truly a backup position. You're not really going to see much of Jerome Ford. You're not going to see much of anything behind him unless one of those guys gets hurt. But Nick Chubb's going to take the bulk of the carries, the bulk of the responsibility at running back. He's not going to come off the field that often unless he proves to be a disaster as a pass protector or something like that. I really don't see an area where he does not stay on the field for a majority of the snaps and is not in the top 5 in offensive snaps this year. So that will be Nick Chubb's role, and he will be fine in that. Obviously, he wouldn't be a breakout. He's already broken out. But yeah, David Njoku, Jordan Akins, Elijah Moore, those are players that I find to be very, very, very intriguing when it comes to their ability to kind of have these big seasons that they've never really fully put together in the NFL. Let's talk about defensive players, because as interesting as the offense is, I think the defense is the same level of intriguing. First guy here is JOK. I found JOK to be an interesting prospect since he came out at Notre Dame. The film review is still up. I was and still am a huge fan and believer in the potential of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. One of those reasons is I think he has elite instincts. I think he has elite quickness and elite athletic ability at that linebacker position. Now, some of the things that have hurt him so far in his career have been poor defensive tackle play, especially when it comes to his ability to kind of freelance and do what he wants. Also, the breakdown in communication last year led to a lot of people freelancing. And for somebody who's good at freelancing, you can't have a lot of people out here trying to do it, right? Because part of freelancing is knowing where people are supposed to be and then being somewhere that's going to disrupt the play for somebody else because you're in the spot that they're game planning for you not to be in. But if everybody's out of position, well, then it's a problem, right? So JOK, think he's really going to benefit, specifically because the defensive line is so much better that their offensive lines are going to have their hands full. They're not really going to be worried about getting to that second level, which means that JOK is going to be able to get off of blocks cleaner. They're not going to be as prepared for him. I think he's going to be able to have an easier time back there as a linebacker, and he's going to be allowed to be more instinctual, because the thing that's going to be important for him and the other two players is the weaknesses of the Browns defense, right? And the reason I bring up the weaknesses of the Browns defense, and I'm not talking about the roster weaknesses, I'm talking about the structural weakness. And when you build a defense like Jim Schwartz wants to build it, you're going to have some structural flaws. Every defense has them. It's about your ability to put a Band-Aid over those problems. And the three guys I'm mentioning here on defense are going to be very key to that Band-Aid solution, right? JOK is the first, because what is an issue with how Jim Schwartz runs his defense. You're going to be in man. You're going to be more aggressive. You're going to get more pressure, but you're going to be in man. You're going to be aggressive. You're going to get more pressure. You know what happens in those three situations? One, screens. You are going to get screened. Teams are going to screen you. It's going to happen a lot, and it's going to be more successful than I think people are anticipating, unless JOK becomes a screen demon, Grant Delpit becomes a screen demon, and Juan Thornhill becomes a screen demon. And the reason this all benefits JOK, just get back to the original point. The reason this all benefits JOK is since they need guys to be demons on those screens, right? To pretty much stop a play, be a playmaker on those screens. Because the defensive line, they're going to be upfield. The secondary's back's going to be turned. Those linebackers are the guys that are assigned those flat areas. Those are going to be the only people who know. So you need them to be game changers there. You need a dude like JOK to feel like he could play free on instinct because you need him to crash those screens. So he's going to be allowed to be himself. He's going to be allowed to be free and go after what he sees. And if he's right, he'll be real helpful. Let's go to Grant Delpit. Grant Delpit, from the safety position last year, was undoubtedly the single best run defender on the team. Grant Delpit. It's interesting with Grant because every step along the way, we feel like we figured out what kind of player Grant Delpit's going to be in the NFL, and then it changes. And last year, you know, this guy that we thought of as a free safety, as a guy you can't put in the box because he's not a short tackler, all of a sudden became the best run defender on the team. Great instincts, great body placement, great tackle fundamentals and all that. Like, he was just excellent in the run defense game. And I think that's where they need him to be excellent again, right? Make some plays on some screens. You know, when you get a draw, be instinctual, be near the football. And with the health of Denzel Ward being in question coming into week one, I think they're going to rely, instead of putting, you know, like a Cam Mitchell out there, I think they're going to rely on these three safety sets. You know, I think they're going to put Grant out there as kind of a quasi slot corner and play those three safeties. They're going to have Ronnie McLeod out there. They're going to have Juan Thornhill out there. They're going to have Grant out there. And that's how they're going to supplement if they miss Denzel Ward for any period of time. And we know, let's keep it real, he's going to miss some time this year. So Grant's going to be huge to that solution. Think of Grant because I think sometimes we get so locked into the depth chart that we think, okay, Denzel Ward's out. Who's next on the depth chart? That's going to be who replaces him. Usually with defense, it's not that simple. It's, okay, Denzel Ward cannot play. Here's what we will do to adjust to not having Denzel. We will play more three safety sets. And that way you make somebody like Grant Delpit kind of Denzel Ward's backup, because he's the main part of the backup solution for somebody like Denzel Ward. But I think Grant Delpit's going to have a breakout year. I think he's going to be recognized as a great run defender, as a great box safety, as a great kind of like a slash player, right? He's kind of a safety. He's kind of a linebacker. He's kind of a corner. He's going to be what I think everybody wanted Isaiah Simmons to be. He's going to be what you see a guy like, not Pat Queen, who's a really good example of this. Well, you're going to see him be that kind of role or that kind of player where he can kind of float in between those three things and really be flexible. You could put him out there as a dime backer. You could put him out there as a nickel sub linebacker. You could do a lot of things with him, and I think that will be really helpful for this team. And let's talk about Juan Thornhill, because, again, when you play a lot of man, when you're as aggressive as this Browns defense plans on being, you need that safety to be a rock, to be solid. And the Browns have not had solid free safety play for a very long time. They need Juan Thornhill to be that. And I think he will. I think he'll be a more instinctual player than he was in Kansas City. I think he'll be more of a playmaker than he was in Kansas City. I think the pass rush, Myles Garrett, that presence, getting the ball out quicker, will allow him to make more plays on the football. And I think he's going to be, Juan Thornhill, a really solid free safety, but also a little bit of a playmaker. I expect him to have one of the best seasons of his career this year. That's my thoughts. Those are my breakouts. Who are yours? Let me know in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.